Is it possible that the Egyptians tried to cover up the exodus of the Hebrews or the Israelites out of Egypt after experiencing all the waters of Egypt turning to blood, and the different hailstorms and the frogs and the locusts and the boils and the firstborn of every Egyptian child being murdered? Is it possible that the Egyptians covered it all up? Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. And we have history of this. We have history of the Egyptians trying to cover up the reign of Akhenaten, but they failed. We have history of them trying to cover up the reign of the first female pharaoh, Hatshepsut, but then they failed again. Is it possible that they could have tried? Yes. Is it possible that they could have succeeded? No. They failed at covering up two individuals. We're talking about covering up the existence of over 2 million people, or almost 2 million people. We're talking about covering up all the waters of Egypt turning into blood. We're covering up all the firstborn sons of Egypt dying. We're covering up the boils. We're covering up the frogs. We're covering up the flies. We're covering up 2 hailstorms. We are covering up a time frame where Egypt would have been incredibly susceptible to their enemies, and none of their enemies took advantage of it. None of their enemies even wrote about it. You would think that the Nubians would have taken advantage of this opportunity to reconquer Egypt. You would think that the Scythians or the Assyrians or any other kingdom in and around the middle of the 1400 BCE would have taken advantage of this opportunity where Egypt would have been thrown into economic, political, and moral conflict, that they would have been disorganized if all these things had happened. I want you to think about something. Just in America, when Katrina hit, look at how much it affected America. When 9/11 happened, look at how much it affected America. When smaller things, in comparison, only in comparison, everybody's life is important, but only in comparison to what supposedly happened in Egypt, the whole country would have fell apart. Egypt didn't start to have any type of really financial struggle in that era until the 1200 to after the 1200 BCE, which was the Bronze Age collapse, which affected the entire region of the Levant, North Africa, just the Mediterranean coastal area. It affected all of those people and crushed their economies, changed the morale, changed the power structures. So you would think an event like this, their enemies would have seized and attacked, or their enemies would have at least wrote about it. But none of their enemies wrote about it. No Egyptians wrote about it. You have absolutely no one who were in the Sinai Peninsula wrote about it. No one in the Arabian Peninsula wrote about it. No one else in the Levant wrote about it. It's only in this Bible. And as a matter of fact, in 2013, it was 2013 or 2014, discoveries were made in Egypt that indicated that the pyramids and the temples were actually built by paid labor. Different levels of paid labor, but paid labor. That these builders of the pyramids and the temples were buried within some of the temples and some of the king's pyramids. I'm not talking about the Great Pyramids of Gaza, but were buried in there with jars with their insides and the things that wealthy people or those who had means, with books of the dead, so that they can cast their spells as they go through their process to meet with Anubis, to have their heart measured by a feather. That these were paid workers, that these were honored workers. True, some were slaves, but the overwhelming majority of the builders of Egypt were paid workers. That is what not only the inscriptions demonstrate, but that is also what the archaeology demonstrates. The bodies that were found in the sarcophaguses, that's what that demonstrates. Slavery of the Semite people is certainly some Semite people, different variations of Semite people were present in Egypt as well as other people, but in numbers of almost 2 million, that has never been found. And there would be an impossibility to cover that up. That would be like trying to cover up Manifest Destiny in America or the Trans-Sahara or transatlantic slave trade. You wouldn't be able to cover it up. So y'all have a great day. I know I'm gonna get some pushback from that. Y'all have a great day. So always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.